the important ones are here. So thank you for coming. My name is Judy Reams, and tonight is our Anti-Bullying Symposium. Our girls have been working, my troop has been working on anti-bullying since they were in first grade, since they were Brownies. And the rest of these girls from the other troops have joined us, and they have worked with us for like 3 years probably. At least every time we have a great big project going on, they always join us. Anyway, I would like to first start out by introducing the girls who are working on their Silver Award and are earning it today. Sandra Snyder, will you please stand? Sadie Boxer. Rian Williams. Zoe Reams. Cassidy Durabell. Alyssa Furlett. Julia Furlett. And Bernicia Cassidy Brady. Yeah, this right here is I'm very, very proud of these girls. They have worked so hard, and to count up all the hours total would probably be about 2,000 hours that these kids have worked on, at least. Because if you total each girl's time up, and the year, and my girls have been working on it since they were in 6th grade. So, and bullying affects every one of my girls, every one of the kids in the school. Everyone is affected by it. Everybody. Adults, I'm affected by it. And what we're bringing you tonight is the people that are going to give us some answers. And we have the best in the whole community. Everybody here is an expert, and they are the best that we have to offer. So I would like to introduce them. The first one is Kevin Davis. He is from the Girl Scouts. He is in marketing and management, membership and development, I'm sorry. The next one is Javi Hernandez, and he's from Every Woman's Place, and he will be talking about dating and violence tonight. This is Carol Rich. She is a former Girl Scout leader, and her girls, they all got the Gold Award, and she works for Pine Rest in Grand Rapids, and she is a licensed, certified family social worker, and she'll be talking, I believe, on suicide. This is Kara Zielinski. I forgot the S. And she's from Child Abuse Council. She'll be talking about cyberbullying. This is Timothy Mott, and he is.
I'm Robbie.
Oh, Robbie. I'm sorry. So this is Robbie Robinson, and he is with Grace Adventures, and he's going to be talking to us about family values. And his play, Grace Adventures, is the best place you can send a kid. I'm going to tell you that right now. Our next one is Ike from, I'll kill your name again, Ike, Villa Lopondo. And he is a probation officer with Muskegon County Family Court. On the end is Kevin Zawala. Am I saying that right? Zawala.
That's good, yeah.
All right, I didn't kill it today. And he is an inspirational speaker, and he is going to be our rapper. So we're going to have fun with him. And this, last but not least, is Timothy Mott, and he's a senior prosecutor with Muskegon County. And he'll be discussing all types of bullying and the laws. So I am done, and are you starting or Tim? The first one to speak will be Kevin.
Thank you, Judy. As she mentioned, my name is Kevin Davis. I'm from the Michigan, or should I say Grand Rapids, Michigan Service Center. I'm the Membership and Community Development Manager for Girl Scouts of Michigan Shore to Shore. On behalf of our council, our CEO, Gloria Lara, and myself, we want to thank you guys for coming out tonight and taking the time to understand what bullying is doing to our young people and how it affects us all. With that, I guess we'll get started. The bully. The bully's purpose is loud and clear. Ruled by threats, intimidation, and fear. Their methods are tested, tried, and true. Does any of this sound familiar to you? You might brush it off and say it's no big deal, but is that truly how you really feel? You don't have to answer, I can tell by your face, that at one point a bully invaded your space. By the end of this program, we hope you will see how many of the solutions to bullying can be. Bullying is serious business. Most of us at one time or another have either had to deal with or were a bully. Whether it's at school, the workplace, or at home, the abuse of power is alarmingly present today. Bullies and their victims can be from any walk of life and from either gender. But what exactly is bullying? It's not quite the same as harassment or assault. It tends to involve many small incidents that accumulate over time. A pioneer in systematic study of bullying identified common elements of this problem and defined it as deliberate aggressiveness marked by inequality in terms of power. Now, I don't know that any one definition of this problem can completely talk about what it means, so I'm going to supplement that statement with this: a willful, conscious desire to hurt another and put him or her under stress. This stress is created not only by what happens, but also by the fear of what may happen. Tactics include harsh teasing, constant criticism, insults, gossip, and unreasonable demands. Now, bullying can take on several forms, and we can't get into all of them tonight for the sake of time, but there are four that are the most popular. There's the physical bully. This one's the easiest to identify. This person acts out their anger by hitting, kicking, shoving their target, or by damaging their victim's property. The verbal bully uses words to hurt and humiliate their target, and their behavior is predominant mostly, I hate to say it, among females. Then we have the relationship bully. This person spreads nasty rumors about their target. Last but not least is the reactive bully, and this is probably the saddest one of all. This person is a bully because they were bullied. So even though we understand why they do it, it's no excuse for their conduct, but it does provide an explanation that helps us understand. One Canadian teen that we'll call Kristen was singled out by bullies in most of her school years. She recalls that in elementary school, bullies put gum in her hair, teased her about her appearance, and threatened to beat her up. In high school, unfortunately, it just got worse. It escalated to the point where she was receiving death threats by phone. Now, Kristen is 26 now, but she looks back on that time and she says this, and I quote, "School is a place where you're supposed to learn, not get death threats and be thrown around on a daily basis." End quote. You know, it's a sad but common aspect of human dynamics. Some people just feel better diminishing others. And it's something that we have to deal with, unfortunately, on a daily basis. The journal Pediatrics in Review says about this, the most extreme consequence for bullying for victims and society is violence, including suicide and homicide. The sense of powerlessness felt by victims is so profound that some react with either self-destructive tendencies or with legal acts of retaliation. And I'll give you two very real-life examples of how this can happen. There was a transit worker who had a speech impediment. He was teased and bullied by his coworkers so much that he came to work one day, shot and killed 4 of them, and then turned the gun on himself. There was another young man who was the son of a pig farmer who was teased and bullied constantly about his father's occupation and his personal appearance. Now, this young man was teased in particular by one other young man more so than any of the rest. One day he had enough. He caught this young man outside of school, rendered him unconscious, took him back to his father's farm, ground him up, and fed him to his father's pigs. Now, when the investigators came on the scene to find out what happened, the only evidence they found from this crime was a bent-up ring and some torn-up clothing. If you didn't think bullying was serious business, perhaps you do now. Unfortunately, though, it's not just child's play. Did you know that bullying in the workplace is one of the fastest growing causes for complaints about workplace violence? In fact, in some countries, it's more prevalent than sexual harassment and racial discrimination combined. And here's the stat to prove it. 1 person in 5 in the workforce faces bullying on a daily basis. So no matter where it raises its ugly head, bullying seems to have a common denominator or trait: the abuse of power to hurt or humiliate others. Now the question we have to ask ourselves at this point is, why does it happen? And more importantly, what can we do about it? Well, the first step to the solution is understanding the problem. Unfortunately, addressing the symptoms of this issue will not solve the problem for us. Now, for those of you who may be thinking to yourselves right now, I was victimized by a bully. I don't care about helping that individual. Their behavior is just inexcusable. Well, there is some truth to that statement. There is no excuse for their behavior. However, there's a difference between excuses and reasons. The reasons don't excuse the behavior, but they do help us, again, understand why the behavior takes place. In many cases, the bully's formative years are scarred by things like poor parental example or outright neglect. Many come from homes where their parents are either cold or uninvolved in their lives, or perhaps by a bad example teach them that rage and violence are the ways to deal with solving problems. Children raised in this kind of environment may not even see their behavior as bullying. They may think it's normal because they're a product of their environment, and that's all they know. One 16-year-old girl who was bullied at home by her stepfather and at school by her peers admits to becoming a bully herself in the 7th grade. She had this to say, and I quote, "Basically, it was a lot of anger building up inside me. I just picked on anybody and everybody. Feeling pain is a big deal. And once you feel that pain, you want to dish it out." End quote. While physical aggression is not typical of female bullies, the anger behind it is. And interestingly enough, increasing numbers of females are starting to resort to physical violence as well. Sadly, some children are aggressive simply because they have been taught at home that intimidating others and verbally abusing them is the best way to get their way. Unfortunately, these methods get results. Now the bully's being rewarded for their bad behavior in an ultimate way. They gain power, they gain status, and they get attention. Another reason why bullying thrives is due to a lack of supervision. Many victims feel that they have no place to turn. And the sad thing is that in many cases, this is true. Deborah Pepler, who is the director of the LaMarche Center for Research on Violence and Conflict Resolution at Toronto's York University, studied children in a schoolyard environment. She came to find out that teachers could only intervene in about 4% of bullying incidents. That leaves a lot of bullying on the table. The problem is that children are incapable of solving it because it's all about power. And each time a bully picks on someone, their power is reinforced. So why don't these kids report these cases more often? Typically, it's because they're convinced that if they report the problem, it's just going to get worse. Thus, to some extent, many young people spend all their school years or many of their school years in a repetitive state of anxiety and of insecurity. Now, what kind of a mindset is that to have? And what does it do to young people? Well, I'll tell you, it causes them to disappear from school. According to a report from the National Association of Psychologists in the United States, every day more than 160,000 kids miss school due to a fear of being bullied. That's about 3,200 children per state if you divided it up equally in this country. Every day miss school. And if they don't miss school, they're either late or miss certain classes for this fear. Then they become moody, irritable, frustrated, they act tired, or become withdrawn. Persistent bullying may erode a victim's self-confidence and induce serious health problems. Victims may start to experience headaches, sleeplessness, and depression. Some even develop a disorder called post-traumatic stress syndrome. Does anyone here know what that is? Post-traumatic stress?
I've heard of it before, but I can't explain it.
It's a disorder that soldiers have when they come from a war zone. That's pretty serious stuff. If that's happening to kids in school, this is definitely a big problem. Now, getting back to the bullies, they don't have a happy ending either. If their behavior isn't stopped in childhood and it progresses to adulthood, they become bullies in the workplace. In some instances, this can result in a loss of career, a loss of livelihood, separation, or divorce. So what's one way we can stop this before it starts, particularly for the young women who are here today? There's a very simple premise that I like to use that kind of segues us into the next part of this. It's called the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. This is where the Girl Scout leadership experience comes into play. You see, public perception would have you believe that the leadership experience is basically about 4 things: cookies, camp, troop, and uniforms. And I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. The Girl Scout leadership experience is about more, about how your girls can do more, see more, be more, perhaps learn more than we did growing up as young people. What we can offer them now can put them in a position early on to learn critical skills, build relationships, connect to community, and prepare to become the future productive leaders of society. Based on the 3 keys of leadership, which are discover, connect, and take action, your young people in your life won't just hope to be successful, you'll expect it. You'll put them in touch with activities and other individuals who are all about success. This programming educates, enlightens, engages, and immerses young ones in activities that benefit them now, later, and for life. Through planned and purposeful curriculum that is girl-focused and girl-led, young women discover themselves, they connect with community, and they take action to affect change in a positive way where they live. I'd like to share something with you folks at this point. It's 2 very positive publications, what we like to call our Amaze Journey. Now, for the Girl Scouts in the audience, these probably look very familiar, but for those of you who are familiar with them, this is one of the curriculum that we use with regard to combating bullying and social problems. The Amaze Journey helps girls learn really about the ins and outs of navigating relationships in an age where it's important to them and critical for them to know. Again, through planned and detailed activities that include dialogue, girls learn about how to effectively deal with relationship issues. Our Sister to Sister, the Darker Side of Friendship program also encourages these girls to discuss these things in an open forum and in a safe environment so they can understand their role in stopping, preventing, and eliminating relational aggression, which includes bullying, and how to promote peace one interaction at a time. You see, these kinds of things make our girls better students now. It makes them better daughters now, better sisters now, better neighbors now. Applying these skills in others will make her the kind of adult that her employer doesn't want to be without, her community doesn't work without, and that her family doesn't prosper without. So, she will become greater, not just now, but later. We're talking about the shaping of the future, folks. The future of business, community, and society. How can we not get involved in something that will positively impact the future of our young women and ourselves? Now, as parents, I would imagine that this is what you want for your daughters. Am I correct? Is that a no?
Yes.
It's yes, isn't it? Of course it is. You want the time and energy to get her involved in something that's just going to reinforce many of the same values you're trying to teach her anyway. Sounds like it'll make your job as parents easier too. Now, you may be doubting at this point whether or not this program gives the kinds of benefits that I'm talking about. So I'm just going to throw a few names at you of people who benefited from the Girl Scout leadership experience, and you can let me know if they sound familiar. Barbara Walters, Celine Dion, Katie Couric, Dakota Fanning, Mariah Carey, Lucille Ball, Ann Landers, Martha Stewart, Jennifer Granholm, Michelle Obama, and Linda Carter. Sound familiar? The success these women have experienced is undeniable. I'm confident that the skills and experiences that they learned in Girl Scouts had some bearing on their end result. Why should that not be the case for the young women in your lives? Why not increase the odds of and intensity that their present and future success can have? Now, I could go on and on about this, but I won't. Make sure you stop by our display table we have outside. Find out how Girl Scouts can help your daughters prepare themselves to become leaders of tomorrow, today. Thank you.
Okay. Well, my name is Tim Mott. I'm with the prosecutor's office. I'm going to try and use this microphone here if I can turn it on. I just want to briefly explain. I hope you've had a chance to look at some of those statistics. It goes to really show how serious of a problem this is. And beyond that, the reason that I'm here is because I'm here to tell you this is a Muskegon County problem. The statistics that you see may be nationwide, but in the end, it's Muskegon County is why I'm here. And because of what we see in the courtroom every day. My goal is to teach you everything I know about the law in 15 minutes. And so, as it relates to bullying. So I want you to understand what tools are out there, because we as law enforcement are there to help. We believe that we can provide a partnership with the community, with young people, with the Girl Scouts, to help combat this problem regarding bullying. So I want you to be also equipped to understand what the law allows us to do. I don't know how that graph got up there. That was just an error there. But this is one of the definitions of bullying that we use. In fact, I actually borrowed this from a bill that's pending in the state legislature. And it's only one definition of bullying, but it's another one that I think is very useful. What is bullying? Bullying is conduct that is reasonably perceived as being dehumanizing, intimidating, hostile, humiliating, threatening, or otherwise likely to evoke fear of physical harm or emotional distress. Now this bill has not become law yet, it's still pending. But this is designed to help the schools across the state have a central idea of what bullying is. Bullying takes many forms and can include many different behaviors, such as not only the physical violence and attacks that we've heard about, but verbal taunts, name-calling, put-downs, threats, intimidation, extortion, stealing of money and possessions, and exclusions from a peer group. This is the definition that we look at in terms of law enforcement and prosecution. Charges that I want you to understand what the law protects us in these situations are as follows. Assault and battery is a form of the law that allows us to handle the more traditional ideas of bullying, the actual physical attacks that occur on students, stalking as it relates to bullying, unlawful posting a message, the use of the computer in order to have cyberbullying, identity theft, where you take on the role of somebody else and pretend to be them to bring them harassment or unwanted attention, malicious annoyance by writing, and indecent exposure. These are the tools that we use in the prosecutor's office and law enforcement to help support the schools, support the parents, and support the young people to combat bullying. There are many types of crimes that address the bullying, and the first one that I want you to understand is what is an assault? Assault is simply a threat to do immediate physical injury to the victim. Any person who reasonably fears that they're about ready to be attacked, an assault has occurred. Now this definition does not include all things. It doesn't include things like future threats, like after you do this, I will attack you. But at least in terms of the protection of an individual from that immediate threat, it is a crime to threaten somebody in these kinds of situations. Battery is simply defined as a forceful, violent, or offensive touching of a victim. The penalty for this by law is up to 93 days in the county jail. Some examples of assault or battery would certainly include things of bullying, such as hitting, throwing dangerous objects at somebody in an intentional way, pushing or kicking or tripping, or any other conduct that is designed to cause physical injury or threats to cause physical injury. Now that is not to suggest that every incident that happens on the playground will result in charge of assault and battery. But these are tools that we can use to help stop that from happening on a continuous basis. Stalking is another very useful tool for us to stop bullying, because stalking is defined by law as the willful course of conduct Action that is repeated, involving repeated harassment of the victim that would cause a reasonable person to feel frightened, intimidated, threatened, and harassed. All the things that many times a victim of a bully feels. And if that conduct is done over a course of time, it becomes a crime. The penalty for stalking or bullying repeatedly is 1 year in the county jail maximum. For juveniles, this can also result in them being detained at the Youth Transition Center or probation, or even removal from their home in the most severe cases. Examples of stalking would include repeated threats of physical harm, repeated harassment, the types of things that bullies oftentimes do, repeated acts of intimidation. It doesn't always have to be physical in order to be against the law, and repeated acts designed to cause fear or serious emotional distress. Cyberbullying. This is, of course, something that's become a growing problem, certainly in our community, and something that we see in our office far too common. It's defined as when the internet or the cell phones or other devices are used to send or post text or images intended to hurt or embarrass another person. And cyberbullying can be a form of stalking if it's done repeatedly, which again can result in serious penalties, including jail. Cyber crimes. There is also a statute in a law designed to protect us when somebody uses a computer to commit a crime. It simply says that when you use the internet or you use a computer, it is a separate crime from the crime that you are committing. And the penalties can range from 1 year in the county jail up to 20 years, depending on what crime you're using or doing in the course of your conduct involving a computer or the internet. Now, this is usually the kind of situation that we see where an offender is soliciting, for example, a child to do something that's illegal. But it can also include the type of intimidation and bullying and stalking where that's being done through the use of a computer or the use of the internet. Another very recent, valuable tool for us to use to stop cyberbullying. Unlawful posting of a message. This again, too, is sort of a new law for us. It's an advent of the internet age. And the law simply says that if you post a message on the internet without the victim's consent, and that posting could cause 2 or more contacts with the victim that reasonably cause that victim to feel frightened, intimidated, threatened, or harassed, you can face up to 2 years in prison. Now, the classic example of when would an unlawful posting exist is if, for example, on a Facebook page, if you provided the personal information and asked people to contact this person in order to harass them, or to suggest that they were willing to do things that were improper, so that people who wanted to do improper things would contact them. That type of form of harassment, that type of unlawful posting that causes other people to make contact, or could make contact with this person, is also against the law. Examples of unlawful posting. Setting up a website, for example. We've seen this example actually in Muskegon County. Setting up a website designed to threaten or harass someone, where the entire point of the website is to harass them, and it encourages others to join in on the harassment. Releasing contact information, like, for example, not only their name, but also their address, or their phone number, or identifying information, can all be kinds of unlawful posting that can cause a person to feel threatened and harassed and intimidated when other people follow through on that kind of contact. Identity theft and cyber stalking. Now, identity theft is certainly is broader than just the bully situation. But the identity theft statutes also include a situation where you may, if you use somebody else's identity, or their personal information, or even their name, in order to commit a crime, you have committed identity theft. If you take on that person's identity in order to cause them harm, you've committed a separate crime. And as you can see, the punishment there can range all the way up to 5 years in prison to $25,000 fine. Another statute that we oftentimes use is called malicious annoyance by writing. This statute simply says that a person that sends or makes a writing that contains obscene material with the intent to annoy a person can face up to 90 days in the county jail. obscene material. If that's being provided to you in the course of cyberbullying or harassment, a crime is being committed. I throw this in even though I know it's not exactly on top of bullying, but sometimes we've seen this in Muskegon County being used in bullying, where images are captured of young people and then sent among other classmates. What I want to indicate is that anybody that's involved in that, of course, is committing a crime. But anybody who receives that information and then passes it on is also committing a crime. Any person that submits a photograph of themselves or another that is indecent to a minor is guilty of a crime and can spend up to 1 year in the county jail as the maximum penalty. And furnishing obscenity to the minor. I bring this up again in the sexting context, where anyone who furnishes a minor something that contains obscene language, prints, pictures, or descriptions tending to corrupt a minor is guilty of a crime and can face up to 90 days in the county jail. The solutions to bullying, as I've been in the prosecutor's office for some 13 years now, and have seen the problems move from maybe some of all the incidents happening at the playground or at the school and moving into cyberstalking, I've come to the realization that the solutions to bullying ultimately is not something that the police and courts can wipe out alone. We certainly try, and we've been trying for a long time. And the solution appears to be that when everybody stands up against bullying, it will end. Bullying stops when kids band together, are supported by their parents, the schools, the community, and the law. I want to share with you 2 quick videos, and then also a statement from a local victim here. The first is actually an example of cyberstalking. And I use it because it's a public service announcement, but it's actually the kinds of things that we see in Muskegon County and have brought before us as a law enforcement matter. And the message at the end is something that's quite appropriate and certainly, I think, worth hearing. Perhaps in a moment it'll pop up. In the meantime, what I'd like to do is just provide you a statement from a family and a victim in a recent cyberbullying case that turned into an assault. On December 14 of 2010, police were called to a local high school after one girl attacked another, causing serious and possibly permanent injuries. The police report indicates that the attack stemmed over remarks that the victim and the suspect exchanged on Facebook 2 to 3 days earlier. Threats and accusations between the two were over a boy that both girls were interested in. The conversation, which I cannot share here because of the harsh language, included name-calling, vulgar language, threats of physical assaults, all things that the law prohibits. 3 days later, the attack was caught on the school's video. The video shows the victim being attacked from behind and without warning. The suspect in this case was charged, and the victim's family has given me permission to read to you some of their thoughts and feelings. This is from her parents. This has been a very emotional and difficult time for us parents and our daughter. The first several days after the assault were very frightening. Our daughter was not like the happy and energetic girl we knew. We were so afraid. We were so afraid that me and her father would check on her while she was asleep to make sure she was still warm and breathing. This was a fear we had never known before. When she was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, we became sick with worry. There have been so many tears and sleepless nights. We never thought that we would be in a situation like this. We don't know the frustration, anger. We don't know the frustration, anger, concern, and constant worry about her well-being. Our child made the national volleyball team before the attack. Afterwards, she had to quit the team because of her injuries. Do you know how devastated, angry, and upset she was? No volleyball, no ice skating, no sledding. All of that is lost now. All I know is that no parent should have to go to their child's school and watch a video of an assault on their child. Isn't school supposed to be a safe place? On Friday, this Friday, we will be in court on this case. What happens will be up to the judge. But what happened to the victim in this case can never be changed. And I have no doubt that both girls, both the victim and the suspect, wish that none of it had happened. But this is only one recent example of a case here in Muskegon County, and this plays out dozens of times in our courtrooms. Our office applauds the Girl Scouts for standing up and being heard on this issue. And I want you to know that on behalf of law enforcement, we stand with you in your fight against bullying. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and go, and then if he gets up there, I'll stop. My name is Ike, I'm a probation officer. I was feeling a little guilty because I didn't want to put my jacket on, and I looked at him and thought, oh man, I don't have to feel too bad. And I looked at Bobby over there, and I thought, oh, he doesn't have a tie, so I'm safe. Okay. One of the things I want to bring out as a probation officer, everything Mr. Timot has talked about, he deals with victims and the boys sometimes. He deals with the perpetrator. I deal with mostly 95%, 99% of the time I deal with the perpetrator. And so, you know, I work with them, so they come in, they're on probation, they plead guilty, they're on probation for 4 or 5 months, 6 months, and they have to go through some routines of community service. They have to do restitution, pay back the victim if there's any restitution to be paid, letter of apology, and they have to report to me twice a month. Now, I do all this, but the thing is, to me, it's really important to understand this, is that I find once in a while I meet a victim, and then I turn around and talk to the perpetrator, and I'm going to say, man, I'd like to take you apart because this is a little girl, and you're like this big, and she's that big, and it happens, you know. Guys beat up on or a girl beats up another girl. It just happens, and to me, once I meet the victim, it really bugs me really bad. I'm thinking, you know, we always meet the perpetrator. I always do. And I try to work with him, try to help him out, try to get him back on doing what he's supposed to be doing, get back on track in school. But I deal with this all the time, that I want to make sure that I want to deal a little bit with the victims tonight, or things that have happened to them in their life. And I want to ask for a couple of hands if anybody wants to volunteer to talk about an incident with bullying and how they resolved it, or if it's resolved at all. Anybody want to go first? You want to talk about a situation where they're bullying? Anybody? I got one over here. I'll let you say. Wait a second. You don't have to say it. You don't have to say it. Okay, you want to stand up? Okay, go ahead. You want to stand up or not? Okay, go ahead.
One time when I was at school, there was this kid in the middle school, and I don't know the whole story. I just know rumors of what happened. He was my friend's brother, and he got bullied so much that, and it was by his own brother, that when he took the gun and shot himself in the head.
That's not good. Anybody over here want to talk about any incidents with bullying and then how they resolved it? Anybody over here? Anybody out there?
I
You
can
sure?
as a parent.
What's that?
As a parent.
As a
I
parent?
know.
Go ahead and use that.
As a parent, my daughter was bullied more than once. 6th grade, she didn't speak to anybody, and her bullying was, and she'll get mad at me for saying this, but the form of bullying that Zoe has had has been by omission, not included. And she has also been sexually harassed. She has been more than once. And she doesn't know exactly how to handle it. I go to the school. And when someone does something to my daughter, I become 10 feet tall and bulletproof. I'm ready to fight. And more parents ought to be like that. Because when I come to the school, there are kids that are bullied all the time in our schools by girls and by other boys. Boys doing things to each other, and there's a school never hears about it. But if I hear about it, I come to school. But for Zoe, one problem we had with Zoe, I went to the school and let the principal, the parents of the other child, and the teacher know that the next time my daughter was assaulted, I was calling the police and having that child taken in. I wasn't going to have my daughter come home and we had to take her to the emergency room. And that was the only time, the first time they ever listened about my daughter getting bullied at school, was when I threatened to come in with the police, and all of a sudden, the problem ended. So, I think parents need to be involved.
Thank you.
Okay, so we were asked to write examples of bullying, but the person who got bullied was supposed to write it, so this is not mine, this is not me, this is my friend, but we're being anonymous. One day, when I was on the computer, my friend sent me a video link and said, I think you should check this out. I opened the link and I saw a really popular girl I knew talking about me and my school. She targeted me, calling me stupid and other offensive terms. It made me feel like I wasn't even a person. I told my mom, and she talked with the other girl's mother. And let's just say that girl would never bother me again.
Thank you. Anybody else? You want to say? What's that? Okay. Anybody back there want to say something? Anybody? Okay. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure that you have an opportunity. Like I said before, I deal with her. Hi, folks. Whereabouts? Oh, come on down.
Hi guys, my name is Kendra. I was bullied really bad in high school. Actually, they used to sit right in front of me in the same classroom and talk about me, and I could hear everything they were saying. At one point, my car was actually run off the road by one of them. I used to come home and almost cry every night. I also stopped dressing up. Like, I would not wear nice clothes anymore because it would draw attention to me and they would say stuff about me. I think they were jealous. I don't know. That's how I handled it. Me and my mom we didn't know what to do. We would talk about it all the time. And finally, after the car incident, my mom went to the principal. And after that, it kind of stopped. I don't know if they matured or if the principal talked to them. But I wish I would have knew about this thing called mediation. And I actually am a case manager now at Mediation Restorative Services, which is located downtown. And that would have been an opportunity for all of us to kind of sit down and talk about what's going on. You know, why are they bullying me? How it's affecting me? Just to let them know that it's a little more serious than what they thought it was. I also run a girls group. I don't know if you guys maybe saw the article in the paper. It's for pretty much anybody can come. Right now, I get referrals from the court, from over here. And it's basically teaches girls conflict resolution skills, anger management stuff. We talk a lot about bullying and ways that can be reduced or avoided, and just, you know, ways so it doesn't get to the point of an assault. But I do know personally that I would say about 90% of my cases are assaults, and pretty much they're all fights. And I would say almost all my cases have something to do with Facebook. So I think it's great that we're all coming together tonight. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kendra. She does a great job. The young ladies that go to her group, she does a great job. Anybody else want to throw in something in there real quick? Anybody? Okay. Tell me my 15 minutes are up, please. Wait for me. I don't want to take it by time.
Okay, somebody I know all the way through school who was getting called names, and somebody told him he was dumber than a donkey. So he went and he told his mom, and she went to the person's mom, and they told them to talk to the others. Like, the boys talked about it, and he hasn't been bullied since. So I'd say that if you're being bullied, go to your parent.
Thank you. Just, I want to close it off a little bit now. Tim, you've got your stand ready to go? Okay. I want to close out with something else. I go to all the different schools as probation officer. I walk in, say hi to the principal, teachers, whatever, they know me. So pretty much a lot of liberty to walk around. And I've seen, literally seen, 2 or 3 fights in the last 7 or 8 years in the hallway since they broke out. I've also seen a lot, not just 2 or 3, but I've seen a lot of incidents where young people are going to go at it, they're going to fight. And I try to get the attention of a teacher, and usually, not men, but usually some ladies that, usually it's been a couple of ladies that I wave to them, and they kind of just walk away, and I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. So I went ahead and get as rough as I can, get the 2 boys to go different directions. Surprisingly, they listened. And I was walking in on one last year when he attacked a teacher at one school, and basically he made the mistake of coming after me after he took a bunch of the teacher and turned around and came after me. He was on the floor within 2 seconds probably, and then I just stood there and the teachers came out and jumped on top of him, and I said, he's yours. And so basically, right now, as I look at all this stuff that's going on in schools, I really believe, honestly, the teacher, before she graduates from college, to be able to teach, she should take some self-defense or get a stun gun. You know, carry one. It's bad out there, guys. Seriously, and teachers are really defenseless in a lot of areas. I don't blame the teacher for walking away. I don't. I'm going like, I don't know if these kids come on help me, but I can't blame them because, you know, I know that Mr. Mott, Tim, and I, and I don't know if some of the people in the panel, they deal with a lot of violence probably, and I deal with it constantly. So I'm used to it, okay? But I know the teachers aren't. They're not taught to do that. They're taught to teach. At this point, you know, I hope I'm going to close it out because I do want questions and answers at the end of this whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off right now. Who's next? Oh.
Specialist for the Child Abuse Council of Muskegon County. I would like to begin by thanking you all for being here and making an effort for this anti-bullying campaign and project. I would also like to thank these lovely young women in the front row who make tonight possible. Good job. I'm going to discuss the issue of cyberbullying. One thing that I want you to keep in mind as you learn a little more about cyberbullying is historically bullying happened on the schoolyard or on the bus or, you know, in common areas, and children could go home and escape that. Now, bullying is happening via technology, and kids can't get away from that. It's through their phones, through text messaging, internet, Facebook, so there is no escape, really. So I want you to keep that in mind while I tell you a little bit about cyberbullying. What is cyberbullying? Cyberbullying is using the internet or other technological devices to send or post mean or hurtful messages, images, or video clips about someone else. Types of technology used. You could use an email, cell phones through text messages or picture messaging, social networking sites such as MySpace or Facebook. For parents in here, one thing I recently learned is there are now Facebook of Australia, different countries that your children can have that you might not even know about. So you really want to keep an eye on that as well. Ask them for all of their social networking site information. And chat rooms. Types of cyberbullies, we have the vengeful angel. They don't see themselves as a bully. They feel like they're righting a wrong. They do this for a revenge. Maybe their friend was bullied, so they're trying to get back at the original bully. reaction will escalate their activities until they get one, so they'll continue to bully until they get that reaction that they're looking for. I had video clips, but I can't play them tonight, unfortunately. Revenge of the nerds usually keep their bullying a secret. Intention is to frighten or embarrass their victim. Because of their technical skills, they are the most dangerous. That's where the revenge of the nerds comes from. They're technically advanced, so they're really good at hacking into other people's accounts and networking sites. Mean girls, bored or looking for entertainment, usually female against female. The bully requires an audience and wants others to know who they are. That's usually more of a popularity. Inadvertent cyberbullying, they usually do not think that they're bullying at all, often reacting to hateful messages they have received. They send messages without understanding how serious their actions can be. And I think a lot of children and students do that. They don't realize the punishment that they could have or the harm that they may be doing to somebody else, which is why the bullying is escalating. When it's face-to-face, they may say one thing, but over the internet or a text message, they'll say things that hurt a lot more because they can't see the reaction. Regardless of the type of cyberbullying, each and every one is hurtful to the person being bullied. How a cyberbully bullies. There's a term called flaming, which is online fights using electronic messages with angry and vulgar language. Harassment, repeatedly sending offensive, rude, and insulting messages. Cyberstalking, repeatedly sending messages that include threats of harm or are highly intimidating. Engaging in other online activities that make a person afraid for his or her own safety. Denigration, personally attacking someone online, sending or posting cruel gossip or rumors about a person to damage his or her reputation or friendships. Impersonation, pretending to be someone else and sending or posting material online that makes that person look bad, gets that person into trouble, or damages that person's reputation or friendships. Outing and trickery, sharing someone's secret or embarrassing information online, tricking someone with revealing secrets or embarrassing information which is then shared online. Exclusion, intentionally excluding someone from an online group, like a buddy list. Warning signs displayed by victims of cyberbullying, so your friends, parents, your children, they will appear visibly upset or angry during or after internet or cell phone use. Withdraw from family, friends, or activities. Suffer from a drop in grades. Avoid school altogether. Target of traditional bullying at school. Traditional meaning the schoolyard type of bullying. Appears depressed or sad. Ways to deal with cyberbullies. Never reply to cyberbullies. Never try to seek revenge against a cyberbully. Report cyberbullying to the Internet Service Provider, ISP, and website monitor. Most important, like the young lady said down there, talk to a parent or trusted adult if you feel uncomfortable with anything. That's your go-to. You can trust any adult, even if it's not your parent, a teacher, any staff of your school. Go to them and talk about it, and they should be able to help. Intervention tips for responding to cyberbullies. Save the evidence. Print copies of messages and websites, and use the save feature on instant messaging. First offense, if it's minor, ignore and delete or block the sender. If the cyberbully is another student, share the evidence with a teacher, school counselor, or principal. If the bullying continues or is severe, seek help to contact the cyberbully's parents and share your evidence. parents, students, teachers, and staff to protect our children or friends from falling victims to cyberbullying. Thank you.
I'm going to take a little different direction. My name is Carol Rich, and I work for Pine West Cushing Mental Health Services, and I'm an outpatient therapist there. I've worked as a therapist in Muskegon County and outside Muskegon County for about 25, 30 years. My day is spent solving problems, trying to help figure out solutions, and treating mental illness. The reason that I'm here is because these very bright women decided to recognize that it's important to include looking at suicide prevention. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what contributes to suicide happening for teens and how to prevent it. And when you walk out the door, I want you to know what to do if you feel like you're facing something like that for yourself, a loved one, or someone that you know in the community. I'm going to, in particular, talk about how suicide and suicide issues affect teenagers. Much of the information that I'm going to talk about is in general for children and adults, but the statistics and the information that I'm sharing is a little bit more specific to teens. And just to clarify, so everybody knows, when we're talking about suicide, we're talking about someone planning to harm themselves to die, that they have lost hope, they do not believe that living their life any longer is worth doing, and they put a plan together to end it. When we're thinking about teenagers and what happens with suicide, suicide is the third leading cause of death for teens. The third leading cause of death. It's completely preventable. So it's very important that we pay attention to what the warning signs are. Every time, for every 10 teen deaths from suicide, it's estimated that there are an additional 10 attempts by that individual. So in other words, they try 10 times before they're successful. In a survey of high school students by the National Youth Violence Prevention Resource Center, they found that 1 in 5 teens has thought about suicide, 1 in 5. 1 in 6 teens has made plans for suicide. They've put together the plan of how they would do it. 1 in 12 teens, 1 in 12 has attempted suicide in the past year. And as many as 8 out of 10 teens who committed suicide, who ended their lives, tried to ask for help in some way before they committed suicide. As many as 8 out of 10. So almost all of them sent out some kind of sign to people around them that that's what was going on for them. That's probably the most important thing for us to hear, because if those are the statistics, that means there's a lot we can do about it. When we think about teenagers, you know, what's happening? What is causing teens to think about suicide? Well, the teenagers, we all know, for those of us that have been there and those of us that are in it, we know it's a hard time. Everything's changing. It's a time of rapid growth, physically and emotionally, all kinds of changes going on. You know, we heard some stories about friendships changing, relationships change. It's just a time of people, young adults, trying to figure out, where do I fit in? And often where they have fit all along their life doesn't work, or it isn't the same. And so there's a lot of unknown, and that makes teenagers very vulnerable. They're at a place where they don't have answers. So if we add other things to that, if we add to that things like changes in family, things like unemployment, things like family conflict, substance abuse, friendship conflicts, school failure or school demands, athletic failures, things like that, it can lead to feelings of being hopeless, trapped, desperate. I'm going to talk about 2 different categories. The first one I'm going to talk about is risk factors. Risk factors are things that are commonly present that can make a teen vulnerable to consider suicide. So these are things that can be happening in and around them that can contribute. The first one is if they've had a prior suicide attempt. If a teen has made an attempt to end their life, they are very vulnerable to doing that again. We heard a minute ago, 8 out of 10 teens said that, had somehow sent the message out that was going on for them. The next is having a mental illness or an alcohol or drug problem, or having both of those together increases the risk. And unfortunately, those often do go together. If a teenager is struggling with something like depression or anxiety, it makes life very difficult. And if that's going untreated and they're trying to cope with things, substance abuse sometimes feels like it's going to help. It kind of numbs for a while. It seems like it's making things better. It's called self-medicating, except that it doesn't. And when the substance's effects wear off, that individual is even more vulnerable. A family history of suicide. If that teenager has family members that have committed suicide, they're at increased risk, probably for a couple of reasons. One of them is probably because mental health problems run in the family, and we know that there are genetic links that if you have mental illness in your family, you're more likely to develop that too. Just like other illnesses like diabetes, hypertension, it's an illness, so it can run in families. Parents that have their own mental illness. Living with a parent that has a mental health problem sometimes can be very difficult, particularly if it's not treated. It can mean that things are different in the family structure, that there's increased stress. Feeling hopeless or feeling lonely are both risk factors. Being impulsive or aggressive. Now, kind of, in general, aren't teenagers kind of impulsive? That's what it's about. It's about trying new things. It's about doing something different. But if one's personality is generally to be impulsive, to do things without thinking about the consequences, wow, you add hopelessness to that, that really cranks up the risk. Having access to firearms. Having access to firearms. Probably right there, that's one of the risk factors we could really affect if access was not made available to teens. Exposure to the suicide of a family member or friend. So being involved in a relationship with someone that commits suicide. Losses. Having losses in one's family. Death of a loved one or a family or a close friend. Divorce. Disability, severe illness, those are all losses, things that, unemployment is a loss. Things that cause one to feel sad over a prolonged period of time. We know that something like that can trigger symptoms of depression. Having been physically, emotionally, sexually abused in one's life. For teenagers, that's a risk factor. If someone has mistreated them. So when we're talking about bullying, that's where that fits. Having ongoing, more than regular parent-child conflict. Ongoing conflict. Arguing, difficulty reaching any kind of understanding. Having stress regarding school, relationships, performance expectations, legal problems, discipline problems. And, you know, the school, the performance stuff, that's both on the high end of, I gotta do everything great, I gotta be this kid that's just a high achiever, and it also can be, I am really unsuccessful at doing almost everything. It doesn't seem like I'm very good at stuff. So it can be any of that. Being a victim of bullying or being a bully increases risk for suicide. Lack of involvement in school or work. Not really being able to fit in, not feeling like there's something that is meaningful in one's life, something that gives one value. If you're a shy person, sometimes that's really hard to do. So now I'm going to talk about warning signs of suicidal behavior. And these are actual symptoms, and almost all of them are symptoms of depression. So these are the things to watch for in an individual. Changes in eating or sleeping habits. And that can mean sleeping all the time or not sleeping hardly at all. It can mean gaining weight and overeating. It can mean loss of appetite and losing weight. Withdrawing from friends, family, and regular activities. Just not wanting to do the things that normally were interesting to that person. A lack of interest. becoming increasingly violent, rebellious, running away, getting involved in drug or alcohol abuse. Change in self-care, no longer caring about one's hygiene, no longer doing the things that help take care of their physical body. Personality changes. Person used to be really easygoing. All of a sudden, they're really easily upset. Or things really seem to bother them a lot, and now they don't care. Persistent boredom, getting bored easily, having difficulty concentrating, having difficulty in schoolwork. I mean, that obviously all kinds of goes together, but being bored, just never really knowing, nothing really excites one. I mean, that's a symptom of depression. It's called anhedonia. It's a lack of joy that comes from things that should normally give one joy. Frequent complaints of physical problems. I just don't feel good. God, my head kind of hurts, my stomach hurts. You know, I just kind of feel sad today, or I feel icky. Just a lot of stuff that really nobody's been able to say, yeah, that's because you have this problem, and there's not any condition that it's linked to. Fatigue, tiredness, just a lethargy, lack of physical energy. Not experiencing the joy or the kind of reaction from getting praise or rewards. Doing something that people say, hey, way to go, nice job. And they're just kind of empty. They don't really have a reaction. It doesn't seem to mean anything to them. Making a threat of suicide. Making a threat of suicide is always considered a desperate cry for help and should always be taken seriously. And any attempt at self-harm, and when I'm talking about self-harm, I'm not just talking about suicide. I'm talking about self-mutilating, burning, cutting, doing things to the body that cause scarring, that cause any kind of tissue damage, which we know are often a method that is chosen to try to cope with emotions that is not a healthy choice. It's called maladaptive. It's not a good way of coping. It's an unhealthy way of coping. It's something that is becoming more common among teens and young adults. That isn't typically a sign of suicide, but it can be. So if that's something that's going on, it should always be evaluated. So let me talk about what we should do. The first thing to do always, as I said, is to pay attention to warning signs. If something doesn't seem right, if a friend or a family member or a child is showing some of those signs or symptoms, act. Take them to someone that is a mental health professional and get them evaluated. There's very concise evaluations that are done to help sort out if someone's having suicidal thoughts, they're having suicidal behaviors, and if they have mental illness, which is often the other thing that's behind that. We know that generally for people that have made any kind of attempt at suicide, 90% of the time there is a mental illness there. Depression, mood disorders, anxiety conditions. If a person's having suicidal thoughts, if you have thoughts of harming yourself, tell somebody. Tell somebody. If you don't even know what it is, sometimes, a lot of times, children and teens will say, I don't feel right. There's something not right with me. I'm having these really scary thoughts, or I'm just feeling like I've never felt before. I don't know what to do about this. And if it's hard to put words to it, you know, imagine what that must feel like. So if that's going on for you, tell somebody. Tell an adult, tell a friend. If somebody tells you that, if you're a child or a teenager, you go to an adult immediately. If you're an adult, you take that person to whoever's responsible for them and you tell them, I think something might be going on that's very serious that you need to have evaluated. So taking action is pretty straightforward. As I said, it's about getting to a mental health provider, someone that can do an evaluation. If it is an emergency, if someone is saying, I'm planning to harm myself, and it's an emergency, call 911. Get the first responders there now, because they may have to help intervene. They may have to take that person to a hospital to be evaluated. There's kind of a couple places that do the majority of evaluations, and one of them is the emergency room, because that's a medical emergency if someone is having a suicidal episode where they are thinking about harming themselves. And so in the emergency room, there's trained mental health clinicians and medical folks that know how to do that evaluation, and they determine what needs to happen. If it's a non-emergency, but somebody's saying, you know, I don't feel right, then setting up an appointment with a mental health professional to help evaluate what's going on is the appropriate thing to do. In Muskegon County, Muskegon County Community Mental Health has a 24-hour staffed helpline. It's 722-HELP. It's really easy to remember. There's a little card up here on the stage, the little yellow card, and that comes from Community Mental Health. It has the number on the outside as well as other information. It also lists the signs and symptoms of suicidal behavior right inside. So you're welcome to take those with you tonight. And at that emergency line, there are trained people that help folks sort out what to do in a mental health emergency. Other places that do evaluations, I work for Pine Rest. There's a Pine Rest Muskegon office on Sherman by the Mercy Health Pavilion. That's the green brochure down there. Those folks are certainly very equipped and available to do that. Mercy Life Counseling, the Child and Family Services that is downtown. There's lots of folks, Every Woman's Place. So there's a lot of places to do to get evaluations. Treatment generally involves psychotherapy, counseling, and often medication to help if it's something like depression, anxiety, to help stabilize those symptoms. It may start in a hospital setting. If a person is suicidal, safety has to be provided, and so safety may have to be provided by them being in the hospital where they're safe. That's usually a pretty short-term part of the treatment. The majority of the treatment is usually outpatient therapy, counseling, working with a therapist one-on-one, sometimes in a group situation, to work on developing skills to cope with managing emotions, to work on how to solve problems, to work on whatever the issues are. If there's bullying going on, then to start figuring out what do we need to do about this, who do we need to involve, how do we get your parents involved, is there somebody at the school that we need to get involved with, and really doing some work around that as well as helping with the emotions. So the bottom line is suicide is preventable. It's very serious. It's something we don't ever want to minimize, that if somebody's in danger, we always need to take action. And that it's always important for us all to remember, you know, life is not easy. There's a lot of times where life is very difficult. And in those times, sometimes it's easy to lose hope. And what's important to know is that things can always change. Things can always change. And sometimes we need to hear that from somebody else. So thank you so much for your attention.
Hello there. My name is Javier Hernandez. As they said earlier, I'm from Web Strauss at Women's Place, and I apologize for also not wearing a jacket. I feel awkward sitting back here. I feel like I'm debating something, so I'm just gonna kind of move around there, all right? But as I said, I've been with Web Strauss at Women's Place for 10 years now, almost 10 years. 10 years in October. I'm getting old. And what I've seen over the years is a lot of violence among the kids. So we're here today to talk about dating violence. And I know somebody's probably asking, how does that fit into the whole bullying thing? Somebody mentioned earlier, bullying is about power and control, right? When you take that to a relationship, it creates dating violence. Now, it's not just a problem with adults that we're seeing, it's a problem more with kids. Let me ask the front row, do you guys see dating violence throughout your school? Yeah? Some of you guys may see it and recognize it, others may not recognize it. Right now, it's showing the stats, middle school and high school kids, 25% of girls, young girls, are experiencing some sort of dating violence. Does 25% seem like a lot? If you're like me, stats mean nothing to you. I'm a person that has to see it. So for those of you guys that are like me, I have two young ladies in the front row. Stand up, please. This is 25% of the front row. So look around. What are the odds that you know her? What are the odds can you help her? Unfortunately, we are raised in society. Go ahead, you can sit now. And you can stand here. No, I'll see if you do it. Unfortunately, we are raised in a society today that tells us to mind our own business. If we're not involved, if we're not in a relationship, stay out of it, right? How many of you guys have heard that? If you're not involved, stay out of it. I would say in a dating relationship, do the opposite. If a friend of yours needs help, or if it's your neighbor, help. Okay? A lot of times, we're quick to blame the victim and say, why don't they leave? Why doesn't he or she leave? As we said earlier, the abuser is gaining and has power and control, right? It's not easy to do what you want when somebody controls you. So if you learned anything from me tonight, and I have to apologize because it's hard to fit a 3-hour lecture into like a 10-minute window. So I'm going to jump around a lot. If you have any questions later, I will be sitting by the cake. I've heard there's a lot.
There's
So,
enough for 400 people.
we'll all be sitting by the cake. Who said share?
I second that.
We're not going to get along. I'm kidding. But no, like I said, I'll be by my table, has a booth for Web Shop and Women's Place. If you have any questions, you want to ask them private, we have our number. Like I said, it's a lot to kind of feed you guys all in one thing. But I'm going to pick on the front row here because you guys put this together, right? What are some of the warning signs that you see your friends who are in an abusive relationship? Let me just say too, it's not just about the girls, it's about the guys. It goes both ways. I've seen guys being abused as well. Okay? But we can't always say that the victim is a young lady. But what are some of the warning signs that you see?
Asking where they are all the time.
Asking where they are all the time. That is a big one. Just yesterday, I was having a talk with a young person because he answered the phone twice with not hello, but this is where I'm at. I'm on the corner of Apple and Getty. And I said, why do you answer the phone that way? Oh, because they want to know where I'm at all times. Is that right? No. You got to have trust in the person that you're dating, right? Okay. What's another one? Canceling hangouts. That's a big one. At you guys' age, I said I'm not much older than you guys, so I'll say at our age, people seem to think that that's cute. If somebody says to you, oh, you know what, I really like you, I want to spend a lot of time with you, why don't you just not go out with your friends tonight? We can spend the night, going to the movies. After a few times of doing that, what happens to your friends? They're gone. They're not there for you anymore, right? Now you've been what we call isolated. You're alone. It doesn't mean that they physically have to remove you from your friends. They just did it without you knowing. Abusers are very smart. I hate to say that, but they are. They play a lot of mind games. They know what they're doing. Okay? So you have to be kind of like, be on the lookout for the warning signs when you start dating somebody. If somebody says to you, I can't live without you, it might sound cute in the way they say it, but realistically, they were probably breathing before you got there, right? So they'll continue to breathe once you're gone. So don't buy that. Alright, buying you things a lot, so you spend a lot of time with them. How many of you guys have seen that? My front row's falling asleep. Another one that I see a lot is the playing the whole jealousy card. I really don't like when you hang out with so-and-so, and you not hang out with them, it really makes me upset. And the person buys it. Okay, I'll stop hanging out with that friend. Is that right to ask of somebody? No. Let me tell you this. In a relationship, you should be able to do and say whatever you want. Okay? This might sound weird, but don't worry about hurting the other person's feelings. You should be allowed to be yourself no matter what that self is. Okay? So if you see a friend going through this, reach out to them. A lot of times, like I said, we are trained, brought up in society that if somebody yells for help, what's the first thing we do? Have you guys ever watched that show on TV? It's called What Would You Do? Yeah. A high majority of people, if somebody yells for help, they go the other way. But if somebody yells fire, something that's going to hurt somebody, what does everybody do? They run toward it. So same thing, when somebody needs help, we tend to think, okay, it doesn't involve me, I'm getting away from here. It should involve you, right? You never know who that person is. We live in a very small town. Muskegon is very small. A lot of times we know each other, we're 6 degrees away from knowing everybody, right? Or so it's said. You never know who the person that you help could be. It could be a future friend, it could be, who knows, our next mayor, president. So what are some of the other warning signs that you guys see in your school? Absolutely. Let's see. I can see it.
I have heard of my daughter Cassidy is sometimes at a school dance
That's one that I see a lot is if the person feels good about themselves, the abusive person is going to lower them a few notches so they can gain control of them. Okay? And one of the ones I see a lot is just an introduction tells me a lot about people. I go to every school in the county, and when I'm talking to young people, I look at the way they introduce one another. Okay? And tell me how many of you guys have seen this. When someone introduces their girlfriend or friend, they say, "This is my blank." Fill in the blank. Is that somewhere, some way you want to be introduced? Is that how you want to be known as, I can't cuss here, I'm in the school, so. But is that how you want to be known? There you go.
You just opened it up. These girls don't get it yet.
Let me whisper it. No, I'm kidding. Somebody will fill you in later, ask her if she got it. Play like the telephone game, just whisper it down. But no, is that how you want to be introduced? You know, they're already saying to somebody you don't know, this person is less than me. They're my property. They belong to me. All that and just, this is blank. This is my blank. If I was that girlfriend or boyfriend, there's no way I'd want to be introduced that way. Yes, ma'am.
What if you say, "This is my mother"? Would that, like if you're introducing your mother to somebody, I mean, is that bad? I'm really confused.
Well, hold on a second. Let's have her time out here. You need to switch seats and explain it to her. No. It's okay. Now that we're on the same page. But no, would you want to be introduced that way? Nobody would. You know, so I'd say, you know, what's wrong with my name? If somebody does treat you that way, be quick to check them. Let them know that you're on stand for that. A lot of the times, and here I am going to pick on girls, girls won't say anything because they're allowed to hurt, they don't want to hurt the boy's feelings. I really like him. I don't want to hurt his feelings and make him think I don't like him. Do you like him more than you like yourself? No. That should have been a quick answer. No. Shouldn't have to think about it. So like I said, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. If you guys have any questions, I will be by my table at the Women's Place Webster House. And to answer the question I was asked today, yes, every Women's Place does hire men. So I was at that earlier. I'm not going to point at anyone. No. So, like I said, you guys can see me throughout your whole schools here probably. I bounce in and out of schools. For the adults, if you have any questions, feel free to come up to me. We have a crisis line. I actually have one myself if you want to talk to me personally. Before I go, is there any questions you want to ask in front of everyone? Or anybody? No? All right. I will end it there then. I can't be short and sweet, right?
Thanks, Hobby. And my name is Robbie Richardson. I'm the chairman of the board of Grace Adventures, which is a faith-based youth and family camp and conference and training center located about 45 minutes north of here in the Silver Lake area. And I was asked here tonight to talk or to address the issue of family values. One of the things that ought to be true is not always true, but one of the things that ought to be true is the family ought to be a place of safety for all of us. And one of the things that we've learned in 40 years of working with young people and with families across West Michigan is that for that to be true, there's an ongoing, continuing education that needs to take place. No family is what it ultimately ought to be. And one of the things I would like to commend tonight is not only the Scout Troop for what they've done in taking this effort to put this symposium together, but I'd like to commend you as family members who are here to support your members of the Scout Troop that are doing this, to be here to learn, to be here to find out ways that you as a family can better support each other. There are a lot of different things that families can do. One of the things that we do at Grace is have an opportunity in summer camps or retreats to work with individual campers to teach them skills in self-confidence, to teach them skills in conflict resolution, to help them learn how to express themselves in an individual, one-on-one, and in a group setting. And that's an important thing to do for individuals to be able to do that. But it's also important for families to learn those same skills. I'll never forget when my twin girls, they're 26 now, but when they first went to Grace Adventures 15 years ago as campers, and came back and began to address me with some conflict resolution skills that they had learned during their week at camp. And to say, Dad, when you do that, it makes me feel, and to walk me through a conflict resolution. And I learned at that point that I was making some mistakes in the ways that I was dealing with my daughters. And so I learned, they taught me as they came back home. And so one of the things that I would like to recommend to you as families is that you don't take the attitude that you know everything and your children don't, but to find ways to deepen the relationship, to deepen the teamwork, to deepen the unity that ought to be there as a safety skill. And so one of the things that we've done over the last 10 or 15 years at Grace Adventures is begin to broaden out and to work more with families to work together to teach them these communication skills, to teach them some of these conflict resolution abilities, to be able to see families become more of a team and continue to grow in the relationship that they have. It's not easy as a parent. It's not easy to understand the changes that your children are going through, that your teenagers are going through. And if you're depending on how you were treated as a teenager or how you were treated as a child to make it through your time as parenting, your skills are going to come up short. And so one of the things I would strongly encourage those of you that are parents here is to take advantage of some of the resources that are available in communication skills and discussion starters, in becoming involved in your children's lives as teammates. One of the other things that we've learned over the last 10, 15 years of working together in this area of families and in working with a lot of school and organizational groups. One of the programs that we have at Grace Adventures involves maybe a 6th grade from a school district coming up, or an organization like a Girl Scout troop or an athletic team that comes. We'll do a lot of interpersonal skills in working together. One of the things that we've learned when it comes to addressing problems like bullying or other problems is sometimes it's not enough for an individual to have conflict resolution skills. There needs to be a commitment from the group. There needs to be a commitment from the school class. There needs to be a commitment from the larger group that we're not going to allow this to go on. And so one of the things that I would strongly encourage those of you here that are organizational leaders or that are school administrators is to take advantage of opportunities to see large group experiences. One of the things that we're able to do at a place like Grace Adventures, and there are other great places around that do that, is to set up experiential learning environments in which we can model and role model some of these things and be able to walk people through experiences and then sit down and debrief and talk through. It's a great thing for families to go through, to be able to actually in a non-threatening way go through a mild stress situation and then afterwards sit down with somebody and talk those things through. I appreciate all of the resources that are here, and I'd encourage you to take advantage of those. But I think the one thing that I would like to say more than anything is to the parents, to those of you who are here, to make sure that you're committed to continue to be the best parent that you can be. I understand that there are times that the family, for whatever reason, can't provide that safe environment. And at those times, I greatly applaud places like the Scout troops or Kendra with the groups that you do, other places that can be safe places for children to be. But obviously, the family is foundational. And so if you have any questions, we'd love to talk to you about ideas, but just encourage you as parents to continue learning, to continue growing, to develop your skills, to learn together with your children so that you can be a teammate and you can be an advocate and you can grow together. Thank you very much.
Hey everybody, how's it going? I just want everyone to maybe just stand up where you're sitting, just kind of do a little stretch or something. We've been sitting here for a while. And just compliment the person sitting next to you. If you know the person well enough, if you want to give them a hug or a smooch too, you can do that too. So I go by Mr. Peace, and before I begin any of my talks, I just like to let those know who I'm speaking to. Just know that every breath that I take tonight will be worth your time. How many of you would like a $20 bill? $20. Right there? You look back at a couple hands going up. Nice. Okay, all right, that's pretty impulsive right there, I would say. Wait a minute. How many of you still want this $20 bill? You still want it? Yeah? Okay. Second. Can you hold this for me for a second? As long as it's not ripping to pieces, I'll take it. All right. I saw someone that was she was putting her hand up like crazy. Back. There you go. Yeah, man. Okay. All right. So, I like to do this example because, is that my Kroger? What is that? Speedway? Yep, got that. I like to do this example because when it comes to something like money and things, everybody, many times, is like, front center, me. Yes, please. If I have a dollar bill, 5 and 6 year olds that I'm speaking in front of, they want that dollar bill. But when it comes to something like people, many times if somebody's a little bit torn or crippled, crumpled, right? Not the right image in our minds, not the right brand name on their clothes, not the right size, not the right shape, that we're not as quick to accept. But something like money, oh yeah, me, right? And what I see happen is that a lot of these things that we have that separate us, we put people into these different buckets, right? And these curtains that we put up in between each other, a lot of those curtains are what cause a lot of the pain that we see. A lot of the bullying, right? So how many of you could tell me, show of hands, when your most painful memory was? Or at least one of them. How many of you would be able to tell me when your most painful memory was? How long ago? 7 months? Okay. Anybody else? Did you have your hand up over there? In the back? Yeah. How long ago? Just shout out. 11 years ago. Okay. Anybody this side of the gallery tonight? Most painful memories you had shared with us a little bit earlier. How long ago were those memories? Yeah. Okay. 6 years ago, right? How about the panel? Anybody? Your most painful memory? How long ago? 26 years. Okay. 21 years. Anybody else?
5 months, lost my dad.
5 months? Okay. Yeah.
This was actually just recently, like, I don't know, a week ago maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Probably a year ago, maybe a year and a half.
Okay. What I'm trying to get at, for me, probably about 10 years ago, is that our most painful memories. Some of you, as soon as I asked you when that most painful memory was, right, your hand went up immediately. And you knew, some of you probably to the exact date of when your most painful memory was. And I'll be talking to a group of 70 and 80-year-olds. And they'll tell me that the most painful memory was 60 or 65 years ago. And they remember it like it was yesterday. Which tells me that the pain that they're going through, even at that age, is still raw. It's still in your heart, right? But my other question becomes is that if your cup, because when we're born, we're pain-free. When we're born, we're innocent, we're pure. We haven't experienced a lot of that pain in our lives. But as we get older and older, as we have these painful memories, family deaths, bullying, cyberbullying, getting picked on, getting teased, physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, financial pain. As we get older and older, right, this cup starts to get full. And my question is that if this cup gets so full of pain in your life, how can there ever be any more room for love? Because what I see happening, a lot of the bullying that happens, that I see, are people that are going through a lot of pain in their life. They're the ones that are getting bullied, that are getting teased, that are getting hurt. And when I see a bully, my heart opens up to them. Because I think to myself, how bad they must have it at home. Or how bad they are, going through that same thing that we keep talking about. Can I get the Girl Scouts? Is that what you guys are called? The Girl Scouts? Okay, cool. You guys got any cookies? The mint kind? Maybe a couple boxes for later for the road? Just think about it. Okay, so anyways, I want all of you to just stand up for a second here. I'll take this back. Thanks for holding it. So if you guys could just stand up for us, this first row here. Okay, and spread it out. You gotta spread it out. So go down so you're not like hurting anybody. You guys go that way. You can go both ways here. Yep. Okay, and so your arms are out like that. So you're not hitting anybody, at least not hard. Okay? Right? Okay. So I want you all staying in one spot. Okay? Stay in one spot. I want you all to spin as far as you can. Okay? So watch me first, right? And you guys can do this back here if you like to. It's up to you. But anyways, I want you guys to spin as far as you can. Feet stationary, glued. You go as far as you can. And you spin, you remember like that point on the wall. So that American flag, don't anybody move it. Just let it stay there. Okay, so I want you guys to spin as far as you can. Either direction. It doesn't matter. Keep your feet in the same spot. Spin as far as you can. And then remember that spot. Okay, ready, go. Spin as far as you can. Ready? Like this. And then remember that spot on the wall. Or that person, or whoever it is, okay?
Let your hand point there.
You got it? You got that point? Do you remember it? Do you remember it? Yep. Okay. Okay, good. Good job. Okay, so just relax. You guys can kind of just take a deep breath. I know it's kind of hot in here, I know. Sorry. Anyways, so now I want you all to close your eyes. Okay? Close your eyes. Keep your feet in the same spot. Put your arms at your side. And I want you all to imagine, eyes closed. I want you all to imagine that you are all some of the most beautiful, incredible people on this planet. You're some of the most amazing athletes. You guys can high jump over buses. You guys can long jump 50 feet. You guys can run 1-minute miles. You're some of the most spectacular, Olympic caliber athletes, that's right, on the face of this planet. You're amazing just the way you are. And then I saw her face. You guys are amazing, right? So breathe it in. Breathe it in. Breathe in that Mona Shores air. Breathe it in. Okay? And when you're ready, right? Keep your feet in the same spot. And your eyes closed, right? When you're ready, I want you to spin again. And go as far as you can. Ready, go. Keeping all that in mind that I just told you. Just trying to stay balanced, too. All right, you can open your eyes. Keep that arm where it's at. How many of you guys improved? Raise your hand. How many of you guys improved? How many of you guys went further? Yeah? A little bit less? Okay. It could have worked backwards. Did you go a little bit further? Okay. All right. Anybody else go further? A couple? All right. Have a seat. It's okay. Give them a round of applause, though, for trying. Thank you, guys. Good job, guys. All right. So what happened there besides me probably embarrassing you a little bit out there? Okay, little confusion. That'll happen from time to time, sure. Okay. Some of you guys improved, right? Normally when it's maybe not this hot inside of a place, people will go about 25% further, right? And it's all because of like their mind, because they actually believe that they could go a little bit further because of what I told them. But the point I was trying to make, as funny as it might have been for some of you guys, is that it really only took me a couple of seconds to tell you guys how wonderful you are, that I believed in you, and that I thought all of you have the ability to impact a lot of lives during your life. But what if I had done the reversal, and I had said that you're all worthless, that you guys stink, that you're losers? How many of you guys would have gone farther then? Any of you? Would you guys have gone farther? Usually about 1 out of 10 people. Well, 1 person out of 10 will say, I'm going to go farther, because I'm going to prove him wrong. Right? But 9 out of 10 people, depending on their skin and how thick it is, are going to believe what I just told them, whether it's positive or negative. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. If you get anything out of this talk tonight, is that it only takes a couple of seconds, really. 2 or 3, 5, 10 seconds to either uplift somebody higher in the clouds, right, and empower that person, or to destroy that person. They say that words, sticks and stones can break any bones, and words will never hurt you, but that's a lie. I mean, we've seen that tonight. Words can kill, and they can stay with somebody forever, right? I had a friend named Dwayne. He's, someone said they were 26, you're twin girls, right? Okay, that's how old I am too. We got some people that are in that same age range. He's right about my age, right? And there was this girl that day after day in high school, for 2 years straight, he picked on her day after day, constantly, while they were in high school. Day after day. Every day. And now, 10 years out of high school, he sees the same girl in the local grocery store, right? And you said this town's kind of small, Muskegon, that so is his town. And he sees her, and he can't even look at her in the face because he feels so guilty about how he treated her 10 years ago. You don't want to be that person. There was another guy, his name was Dennis. He was a senior in high school, constantly putting down women and people's physique, their outward appearance, how they dressed, how they looked. He was a senior in high school working on his motorcycle outside. It started to rain, so he took the motorcycle inside. Had an accident, caught fire, it blew up. Every part of him except the bottom of his feet burned. Every part of him. And now he became something that people didn't want to look at, that people would criticize. And he started to feel how he treated these people. And now he didn't have anybody, because he had put all these other people down, he didn't have anybody to come and help him, to be there for him. And my story goes, I was like the chameleon in high school. I changed who I was around different groups to be accepted and respected. And because I was afraid to get bullied. I was afraid to get bullied. I used to be called Sweatpants Boy back in middle school. Sweatpants Boy, because all I wore was sweatpants. I had sweatpants for every day of the week. I was Sweatpants Boy. And I stopped wearing sweatpants because I started being made fun of it, And now you can see from my attire tonight, I just kind of go with the flow, but back then I didn't. And I remember times where the real pain comes from for me is when I denied my faith. I denied my faith in front of different groups that I was around because it was so important to be accepted and well-liked and not bullied. I was afraid. And I think back to denying what's at the core of you, your beliefs and your values and who you are and your faith. That's tough for me to think about. That's tough for me to think about. I remember sitting a couple weeks back, my friend from high school, his name was Pat, and we were sitting in my car because we went out to dinner for like the first time in 10 years. And I sit by him after dinner, and he looks at me, he's like, hey Kevin, I wish you would have been there, man. I wish you would have been there for me in high school. Because I wasn't the one that was doing the bullying. I was the one that was standing by, being inactive. And I feel those people are just as much at fault. There's so many times I could have sat by the person sitting on the lunch table. There's so many times I could have stood up for somebody getting picked on in the hallways. And I didn't do it. But he said to me, he didn't have anybody, you know, and he saw me as somebody, because we were friends during elementary school and we kind of lost touch throughout high school, as the one person that could have been there for him. And I wasn't. And that hurts. And you don't want to be that person. And you don't want to have it be where it's too late. We've heard examples tonight where people are taking their lives over bullying. There was a 6-year-old. She came home to her parents. She said, hey, I'm getting picked on at school. And her parents said, tough stuff. We went through it when we were kids. You got to go through it too. That's the wrong approach to take. That's the wrong approach to take. A week later, she locked herself in the garage, started the car, and died from carbon monoxide inhalation. And you don't want to be the person that was being, you know, all the people that are going to feel guilty about what happened there, or the person that was bullying somebody and now feels guilty. You guys remember when 9/11 happened? You guys were probably pretty small still, right? When the Twin Towers got struck. One of the fathers that died that morning, his final words to his son, coming back to the power of the words, his final words to his son that morning were, I hate you, you're a loser, you're never going to amount to anything. And so 10 years later, almost 10 years later to the date, coming up here in September, those are the words that keep ringing over and over in his head. That's the legacy that his father left with him. So you think about your actions like that, right? And the power of your actions. But for me, there's always hope, because you hear the stories too, right? About people that one action saved a life. I mean, you hear about the stories all the time. There was this kid that was about to take his life, cleaned out his locker so that his mom wouldn't have to, was going home that day to pop some pills and take his life that evening. A freshman in high school. On the way home, some bullies came by, hit him to the ground, knocked his books out of his hands. One guy across the street saw it happen. He came over and helped him with his books. And the one action that day saved a life. And I get Facebook messages all the time from people your age and older that say that the words that day that I spoke, something hit home, something struck a heart chord, and it saved a life. And there's so many examples of what is possible. There was a high school in California, right? 2,000 people in the auditorium, so probably about double this size. Maybe more, I don't know. Could be more. Anyways, 2,000 people in the auditorium, right? And this girl, who's a paraplegic, handicapped, laughing stock of the school, gets on stage. And she grabs the mic at the end of the assembly, because there's an open mic session. And she looks at the whole audience, right? And she points to the star football player of the school, the star athlete, football god. He's like Moses, like the Red Sea, like when he walks through the hallways, people like part, just like, because he's that popular, like he's that well liked. And she points to him. And she says, I love you. I love that boy. Everybody starts laughing. Everybody starts laughing. And she keeps saying it. I love you. And right then and there, he had two choices of whether or not he's going to add into all the other laughing that's going on, that's taking place, or do something that might save a life, that might change a life forever. So in front of 2,000 people, he gets up and he runs across the auditorium, gets up on stage and gives her one of the biggest hugs she's ever had in her life in front of 2,000 people. And you can't even begin to imagine how much that meant to her. So what happened after that? Every one of the students, every 2,000, one after another, came up and gave her a hug. 2,000 times. And I'm here today to tell everyone here, especially our young ladies, that all of you have that same power. All of you have that same power. And we can reverse the trends that we see, the Facebook statuses that say I'm bored. I see it every day. and I'm like doing stuff in my life now, I'm so passionate with this purpose that I can never be bored. Because I'm doing things that bring me to life, that make me feel alive, have that fire. But I see it all the time, and you think about why we bully each other, why we resort to violence and destructive habits. It's because we're trying to fill these voids in our life. We're trying to fill the boards, the boredom, with something. Why not have it be something positive, right? I was in the bathroom the other day. I do that sometimes. Okay? I was in the bathroom the other day, and it came to me. I used the restroom, and then I went to go wash my hands. And out of the corner of my eye, like out of my peripheral, I see the spider. Yeah, on the mirror. You guys ever seen the movie Lion King? Anybody seen that movie Lion King? It was that moment like with Simba and Rafiki, where he's like looking at the water, and Rafiki's like, Simba, look closer. And so I looked closer, because I was like, man, I got to, and even though it's a spider talking to me, and I'm looking closer, all of a sudden, I hear this song. Gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. It's gonna make a difference. Gonna make it right. And I got out of the bathroom. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And what I came to, whether it was the spider or Michael Jackson or somebody telling me something, that we all have that ability to make the change ourselves. We all have that power to change our environment, to change our home environment, our school environment, that we can own the climate of our lives. And I'm never ever coming to anybody that I speak to trying to pretend that I know what goes on behind closed doors, because I don't. I'm not trying to pretend that. I'm just trying to say that we all have that ability to break whatever cycle that we don't want in our lives. We all have that ability. But it's got to start with being real and true to ourselves, like so many people up here were talking about tonight. How many of you guys take showers? Okay, good. We got a hygienic group here tonight in Muskegon. I'm glad to hear that. Well, I do too. And I was in the shower. The other night. Here, hold it. Hold it. Yeah. I was in the shower the other night. I ran after for you guys. And I was in the shower the other night. And I heard the toilet flush. Yeah. And I had well water. I don't know what you're laughing at. But yeah. I had well water, so when it got hot, all of a sudden, it's getting real hot, real cold, and I'm like doing like Michael Jackson, MJ, like Usher, and I'm like trying to whoa, 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 like that, right? And I'm like, come on, Nick. That's my roommate. I'm like, Nick, why are you gonna do that? I'm taking a shower. So I finally got back to where it was like a happy medium, homeostasis. And I hear the toilet flush again. I'm like, Nick, come on, man, this isn't funny. So I start doing my thing again, like I'm, trying to get all around, like, oh, hot, cold, like that, right? I'm like, Nick, if you do it again, I'm coming out. So what do you think happened? What do you think happened? Yeah, it flushed again, and I'm like, all right, that's it. So, came out. I said, all right, Nick, that's it, man. Where you at? I'm coming out, I'm all wet, I'm just like upset. This got flushed, I got hot, cold. And I'm looking around the apartment and I can't see him. He's not here. And I look for his keys and they're gone. Excuse me. And they're gone. And then I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? So I'm about to go back to the bathroom and just say, all right, whatever. And then, so I'm going back over yonder. I see our cat perched on the couch. His name's Bulldog. And I'm like, no, couldn't be. Bulldog? about to go back in, and all of a sudden I hear this voice say, Kevin, it was I, Bulldog. I said, Bulldog, you talk? He's like, yes, my son. I said, Bulldog, whoa, there wasn't any more stare. I was like, Bulldog, what, why? What's going on? It's like, I was trying to prove a point, my son. I said, Bulldog, couldn't you have done it some other way? He said, no, that way was more funny. And I said, well, Bulldog, what were you trying to tell me? And he was trying to tell me that he was trying to prove a concept. He was trying to prove this concept called 50% friends, where you're friends with somebody only 50% of the time, when it's convenient for you. And I see so much pain happening because of that. Inside that concept where I'm friends when it's convenient for me with this person, but as soon as somebody else comes by, I don't know that person, right? So it's either you're 100% friends, you're 100% hot, or you're 0%, you're cold. That's what Bulldog was trying to tell me. And how many of you ladies, right, are like out there on the beach or like the deck, right? During like the summer months, which is, it's getting close to being fall, and you're laying on your towel reading a book, like sipping the iced tea, and the sun's like there, like, oh yes, the sun, yeah, and the clouds go behind the sun. You're like, no, oh Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on me. Oh Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, hiding behind the tree. What's your name? Hannah really wants to play with you, so please come out so she can play with you. Oh, Mr. Sun, Mr. Golden Sun, please shine down on Judy. Because we know that happens, right? And it's still the same point. You're either hot or you're cold. It's yes or it's no. Sorry. But anyways, it's a point he was trying to prove. But when it comes down to it ultimately, because I don't want to take too much more time, I know I'm already past the 9 o'clock curfew. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, you have to ask yourself what you want to be remembered by. If you were to picture yourself at your own funeral, because a lot of you have probably been to a funeral that you know somebody who died at too young of an age, right? Heaven forbid that it happens. I'm hoping when I'm 95 and you're in your 80s, we're still kicking it, right? In our wheelchairs, whatever, right? But, I love you guys. Sorry, I do. But I'm coming down to thinking about what it is that you want to be remembered for, because are your current actions today in line with that? And if putting people down, all these other things, if you're doing things today that people aren't going to even want to remember you for, and that's something that you really got to critically assess. Because I think a lot of people are at that point in their life. I had these hands here, these wooden hands. They were given to me from one of my close friends. And he was going through a lot in his life. He was suicidal, just lost a job, just lost a girlfriend, having some family problems. And he told me that at that stage in his life that I was like his helping hands. And that I helped save his life. And so I see these every day in my home, and it just reminds me that every day I want to be somebody else's helping hands through whoever I interact with, whoever I talk to. If you guys close your eyes for a minute, everybody. And just point to yourself. Just point to yourself. And if you open them, probably about 80 to 90% of the people here are pointing to their heart. A lot of times, that's the only thing that people remember you for, is your heart. And if you keep it as open as you can through your life.
There's no doubt. This mic just went off, it's okay. There's no doubt that you're going to have an impact on somebody else. You're going to touch thousands of lives during your lifetime, right? This sign here, need human kindness. It was given to me from a homeless guy. And I always compare myself like to Spider-Man, like his spider sense or something. Like it just goes off at certain times where your heart opens to somebody else in need. You know, whether it's opening the door for somebody or somebody that's less fortunate than you. And he was sitting by the bus stop with this sign, and his head was down. And what I saw happen as I watched it develop, and because I was about to pull out of this Starbucks, but there was this bus stop where he was sitting, and I kind of caught him out of the corner of my eye. But as I saw it develop, people were going out of their way to avoid any type of interaction with him. People were making it a point to not talk with the individual or have any type of acknowledgement. But you see so many people, they just want to be acknowledged. They just want to be seen, right? And so I went up to them and we sat there for about 3 hours and just talked. And what I came to find out through this situation is that for as much as I empowered him to go on with his life, it picked him up to do something with his life, it's like he made that much more of an impact on me. So for as much as I gave, I received that much more. Would one of you guys hold this for a second? And still it pains me to see a homeless body by the bus station. People going out their way to avoid a situation or any interaction with this human in need, when need human kindness is all that his sign reads. Still they just keep passing by, some zig and some zag, not wanting to have to talk to the man dressed in the rags, but his head's down in shame, sitting by his plaid bag. The words on his poster are a prayer for someone to lend a hand. So I approach him, because my heart drips, yet it bleeds. For those less fortunate, our fellow human beings. You see, some people more than anything just want to be seen, especially the dirty and the shunned of this society. And if you can't spare any change for a beggar in the streets, then at least encourage them to get back onto their feet and listen to their story, the sweet song that they speak. For as much as you give, the more you shall receive. There's so much pain. So think about that. Hopefully something I said rings true with your heart. And I know it should have, because I know that a lot of you touched my heart tonight, just from being here. I was going to do some hip-hop with the mic guys, so I got my CDs though. I'll be more than happy to give you my hip-hop. It's all positive. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. If anybody has any questions, we will, if anybody up here, you may ask them. And following this, we have lots of cake. lots of cake. And we have lots and lots of punch. So we would like you to meet us in there for a little reception and see everybody's booths that they have set up, and get all the information that you want about the organization. So if there's anybody that has any questions, you may now ask.
I would just like to thank all of you for giving your time. It really means a lot to the girls.
No questions?
In the back.
that everybody in this whole county would have tried to come here.
Yeah, sure. I really agree. It's really a shame. Even the teachers, you know,
Yes.
they.
So, but the important people were here.
Absolutely.
And thank you, because everybody took their time for these girls. All they had to do was ask, and everybody you see here, nobody questioned them. They said, yes, we will be there for you. Because our troops are, these are the girls that are going into 9th grade. And if they stay with this anti-bullying like they've started, they're going to be a moving force in high school. Other kids are going to see how important it is that they follow the lead that these girls are taking. And I appreciate every one of them, and I'm very proud of every one of them, because they did all the work, and they're the ones who requested all of these people be here. So thank you. And if you're ready for cake, or do you have something to say, Ken? If you're ready for cake, you all get your own cake? Thank you to Gloria for coming in. This is Gloria. Hey, stand up. And she is the CEO of Girl Scouts.
I just wanted to say something. It isn't a question, it's just a statement. I've been a leader, not in the North Shores, but I've been one for 6 years, and my group is international. And not only do I commend the girls, but it isn't just the girls, it's also you and I don't know who else. I know
Edna, Teresa, and Gwen.
but it's the leaders as well. So,
Well, thank you.
You'll have to stand up. I'll take my hot seat. I just have a towel. Yeah, he was getting a little rest off. Come on, buddy. My boy.
I did, I just gave it to her. Yeah, let me just get this.
You doing all right? Yeah. You guys voicing your opinion? Hey. You say that like that's a bad thing. You got it. Well, yeah, it's easy when he's not in it, right?
Thank you very much. You did a good job.
Welcome.
And you were applauding for him from the, I saw that. I did. Yeah.
Cheering.
That's good.
Doing something.
That's right. That's his way too.
Yes. There we go. There we go. No,
Sometimes it takes some translation, but that's all right. You know.
I'm working on that kid culture thing. I'm deciphering the looks. All the screams I haven't gotten yet.
I see that smile. Yeah. It's trying to sneak out there. Up near Hart, Silver Lake, so it's about 45 minutes north of here.
Okay.
Yeah, and